Welcome back to the 2024 Netrunner World Championships. I am Neuropantser, he, him. I am joined by...
I'm Andrej of the Metro Grid. I go by he, him.
I am so excited to be back on comms with you. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
We spent like all of 2022 in a really dark tent going over some gameplay. And
the stream dungeon, as we called it. Yeah.
Oh, and we're back years later, which is incredible. And speaking of incredible, this matchup is something special.
It is amazing. Do you want to tell us who's in this matchup? Because I think it's going to be a treat for everyone who watches.
So, two players you might be familiar with. Firstly, we have Sokka.
I've heard the name.
Has won the World Championship 2 years in a row. He's on his way, hopefully, for that three-peat, as it's been called. To see if he can take it down.
That's interesting. Has anyone ever done that before?
Three-peat? No. Two players have done it twice in a row. Sokka might be on a way to make some history. On the right, this is a teammate as well. This is Brandon the King. Now, you're actually going to see two folks in this camera frame. It might not be perfectly framed. For you not familiar, the King is visually impaired. He cannot interact with the cards the ways that Michael, you and I might be doing. So what happens is that the organized play policies here have this sort of allowment for a role that's called the Oracle. So Peter H is the Oracle, and Peter's job is basically to instruct exactly what's going on. Every card that's drawn, everything that goes on the board state, you want to communicate this just so that Brandon can participate and play at the same level that someone who is sighted can. And Brandon is just such a killer Netrunner player. Has been just grinding it for years, traveling to events, and I'm super stoked to see him at Worlds this year. These two players, mind you, test together all the time. This is going to be a cool matchup as well.
Right, because they, what we often see in Swiss is that people, since they don't know the deck lists, they are trying to both figure out what the right play is and figure out what their opponent's trying to do in the first place. In this case, they already know. They probably know each other's deck lists down to the card.
And an interesting deck list. I was just talking to Sokka. I was laughing. I was doing on stream talking about what are the decks you might expect in the meta. And I know I said, Built to Last Glacier, play the same deck that Sokka played last year. Maybe change some ice around. I think it's a good deck. And Sokka said he heard that and he's smiling to himself because that's exactly what he's done this year. Built to Last Glacier, 44 or 49 cards actually. That could be interesting. That was a bit of a different choice last year to get those above the laws in it. This is going to be big ice, get some advancements, push for that late game. Maybe we'll see some Biovolts. That's classically a Sokka card we've seen time and time again. But on the other side of the table, this is actually a really interesting way to respond to this deck. This is what people call Crew Hosh. So this is Ice Destruction, Devil Charm, Aquaceros Crew, some Recursion. This deck wants to find that 6 strength ice and just destroy it. Yeah. If your game plan is get big ice, I think the only thing that might be a real big road bump is 10 strength is a lot if you can get 3 advancements up on that Pharaohs. This is a matchup where the players have to play this very, very cleanly, which is exactly what we're expecting from these two.
Absolutely, yeah. Both incredible players. And we are starting off immediately with an install advance, net a credit. From Sokka. So what do you think this advanced card is?
Now, I would be very surprised if it is the new card that we've been seeing as Charlotte. It's more likely just an NGO front, which is...
And it is an NGO front.
Akin to a hedge fund. Again, this is built to last. The first time you advance a card that doesn't have advancements, you gain 2 credits. So it's akin to clicking for a credit and allows you to just advance board state. Mess of chess on the face check. Brandon recoiling, losing 3 credits at the start. Not accessing a card too. Mind you, the NGO front disappeared. A lot of times with Hoshiko, you just want to touch cards. This won't turn. So we'll see if you run R&D. You might not be able to steal the SDS drone deployments we're expecting there, but off the top, that's a Colossus. You don't see that all the time.
Yeah. That's a very, very cool ice to see. I mean, if you want to throw advancement counters on ice, why not get some incredibly punishing subs out of it, right?
Yeah.
You know, lose 3 is great, but I mean, I'm really in it to trash some programs. I'm really in it to give 2 tags. That's what you want. Trashing an installed resource, that is actually... That
can be very important.
It's both very important and pretty unique for ice. There are very few ice that can actually trash things other than programs or hardware sometimes.
Hoshiko's going to get that flip there. That is a Hoshiko. This altar, this is the magical girl side. So you're going to gain 2 credits. Start a turn, you're going to draw a card, but lose a credit. And on that first click, it's basically like a professional context. You get a click and a credit over, you know, technically 2-turn window, sort of. And install advance, just going to repair. Sokka has some really good content up on his YouTube channel where he talks about playing these decks. And it's all about, it's a methodical play. It's about placing your ice well. In this matchup, I'm not actually sure if we're going to have to play around Banhar. So it's not about like getting that rhyme in front of your Pharaohs. It's more going to be about like controlling the tempo of the game. And tempo is a real strange word because this is not a tempo matchup. This is not going to be doing anything pretty quickly. We're going to be scoring out in a 2 to 3 ice server with a Biovolt maybe 10 turns from now.
Yeah, but even in a deck that isn't a quote-unquote tempo deck, controlling the pace of the game and making sure you don't open up scoring windows or open up steal windows for the runner is is incredibly important. And speaking of tempo, speaking of playing this long, protracted game, we see a daily cast here from the King, just starting to get that money drip in turn over turn, so you have resources to do what you need to do. All 3 centrals iced up and advanced up from Sokka. That's a really good start.
Yeah, 3 credits for the daily cast, flipping back Hoshiko's side. You talked about the windows. I think the big window here that Brandon needs to capitalize on is opening up one of these central servers. Cards like Leech, cards like Amakua, those are the breakers in this deck alongside Crew and Devil Charm. And if you can open up HQ and just say there's no ice on it, you spend 5 credits, you advance it, it's immediately getting destroyed, but no res. Touching card there, I believe that's a border control if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
It looks like Chen full art with, I think, Chris Dyer's face on it back in the day.
I think Alex White as well.
Oh yeah, cool, yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense. And so we're going to go here for the Steelskin Scarring. This deck,
Steelskin.
as a console, if I'm not mistaken, should be on Patchwork. A really fun console. This is the last Worlds to play Patchwork, and while I don't think we have to go into some of the rulings changes, because that probably won't matter, that is a great card to be able to get 2 credits of value at the same time of playing all these great cards like Strike Fund and Steelskin that fire when they're trashed from your hand.
Yeah, and I believe that for most cases, unless you're really going outside the norm, basically, Patchwork works like you thought it did.
Yeah, it does. It's even better than you thought it would in most cases. There's an Earthrise Hotel. Cards can really matter for a Patchwork deck, and I'm not sure if we got the mulligan here, but you're definitely looking for some bit of ice destruction to open things up. Leeches, really important. Again, some of the ice in this deck can go pretty big. We're pretty sure one of these is, if you want to face check, you can face check safely. And honestly, I think the fact that there was a no res there, it means it's, I don't know, is it likely to be a Colossus?
I think so, because right now it has nothing.
Doesn't do anything,
like,
just a
the
tag.
1 tag is not a huge issue, and there's nothing for it to trash. So I wouldn't be shocked if that R&D is that Colossus, especially since we saw it the turn before, and it is the type of ice you wanted.
Sure. There's a going back in R&D again.
Oh, sorry, that just knocked me right out of whatever I was saying.
This is about controlling where the agendas are. Now they are back in R&D. We know where 2 copies of Basalt Spire are. That's the new Wayland agenda. It gives you a bit of recursion if you can get that scored out. Speaking of scoring out too, right? Like, very important to understand. The World Championship last year wasn't a score out. It was a clearinghouse lethal. This deck does have multiple win conditions. It also might be on as many 3-pointers as possible, so it can't actually score to 7 that well. It just wants to build this lock board state.
Oh, here does come the Patchwork.
Patchwork just coming down for 4. We got that card draw.
Oh.
So we have some cards in hand there. You see a Copulation too, and another blue card. That blue card might be an alarm clock. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
I think
very cool.
this might be, there is a price trigger. So it was a price.
Okay, price. It was a price.
So that hit the Steelskin that draws 2. And now we're going to install one of these cards. So we lost a lot of influence there. Alarm Clock is 4 influence, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 3. Copulation is multi-axis, steals some of those punitives away that could be in the deck as well, get some multi-axis on HQ. But Patchwork is now coming down. So now, as long as the King has cards in hand, he can feel this 2 credits clicklessly per turn. As long as you're just, putting your cards on the table and building board state. It feels so good.
Yeah, and there are so many cards that cost exactly 2 that are really good.
Yeah.
Dirty Laundry, right?
Yeah.
That costs 2. Wildcat Strike. I don't know if that's in this deck, but it's a lot better if you don't have to pay credits for it, isn't it?
It's a fair bit better. You don't mind which way the choice goes. Speaking of Dirty Laundry, I think it might just be discarded here to install another card. Can be hard to make a run here. Here, definitely Brendan wants a Crew and a Devil Charm.
Oh, there's the Devil Charm. So that Mesna Chesvo has how much strength?
4 strength.
Oh, so that's less than 5.
Less than 6 even. This thing has big numbers on it.
Oh, you're right. That is a 6. I didn't even,
Yes.
wow.
6 is such a
Wow.
big
That's
point.
such a huge number.
There's very few ice in the game that has that 7+. 6 gets you through all the things you're expecting. Bronze.
Even Pharos is only 6 before
Pharos
it
is
gets the counters,
5,
right? Oh, it's
but then
5
it gets to
before it gets the
10.
counters.
And 10 is hard. It's really difficult.
That's a lot, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because Devil Charm is unique, so you can't use 2 of them in the same window.
So what you do, mind you, here we have a Crew. We might just blow open HQ.
Yeah, here's the Crew.
Unfortunately, this is 1 turn too late after the Drudge Work did just empty 6 points from hand. But the big thing here you need to see the interaction is the way that Crew can actually make it 8 strength because you can take a tag, but also you want to get Leeches.
Yeah.
Leeches, Crews, those are not unique, so you can pile those on.
Yes.
So let's see what server King punches through. There's actually a big chance R&D, knowing where 6 points are, can be the place you want to run.
Now, I think it's important, since we do see the Mesna Chesvo here, obviously it's now iced up. There's an ice in front of it, so it might not be the immediate target, but it is important for future interactions. How does that work with the Crew? How does that work with Devil Charm?
It's on encounter. So
It's on encounter.
you will lose the 3 credits.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to encounter it. I believe the Texan Officer Crew says a card you are encountering, so that will happen after the win encounter abilities.
Yeah.
Did you see that Drudge Work got the 3rd Basalt back? That could have been one of the 2 redrawn, but that was a full Drudge Work in just 2 turns. You don't see that all the time.
That's one of the best Drudge Works I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's a good Drudge Work. Now Hoshiko, still on the magical girl side if I'm not mistaken, so We want to get some pressure in ice on both of the main central servers, archives, still install advance, and getting more ice on the table. This is where if you're not getting the pressure, you can feel locked out. You only have 3 Devil Charms. Very importantly, they remove themselves from the game.
They do.
So you can't recur them with the Labor Rights, with the DJ Fenris loops. So you have limited options. It's just the crews that can be recurred.
Yeah, crews can be recurred pretty easily with any of those tools. And yeah, Ashen even, you know, the biggest piece of recursion right now, it has no way to get Devil Charm back either.
Ice Carver coming down for 1 with the Earthrise Hotel, reducing the cost. Now, this card might not seem that important, but there's a bunch of 1-strength ice you could imagine this list. Border controls, descents. That means Amaku just sails through them. And sometimes if you want to hit some of those odd breakpoints, it can save you a fair bit. You don't have the Devil Charm. You can just get through with a tag to get through 3-strength ice. I do think his ice is going to be like 4+ and maybe some 1, so it probably is going to line up relatively well. Another daily cast as well. We have a lot of money coming in, but not a lot of interaction. I think Hoshiko should be very non-digital and just plotting, advancing, just pushing yourself forward. I think Sokka's talked about this before. This is an identity that gives you value and makes your defenses better without needing cards. So the longer the game goes, if you can control the game, you can just advance very slowly. The numbers go up. There's not that many runner cards like that. If you just stand still, the numbers go up.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, you know, engineering the future. A lot of those old ideas where you kind of get 1 credit per turn. The more turns you take, the more value you get. So very, very methodical play here from Sokka. Has not had to res much ice yet, which I think...
Not yet.
Obviously sitting on a fair amount of credits here, but I'm sure that will probably end soon. I imagine the King's probably building up to make some moves here.
And this is where you have to start making those difficult decisions. Hey, do you want to res a 6-cost, a 7-cost ice that's going to be immediately destroyed by the crew charm? But you have to do that. So if Sokka can build these board states where it's like, okay, this is annoying enough ice. It's a Whoredom, but behind the Whoredom is like a 6-strength, a 7-cost. Like that is the board states where you have to force this runner here to make decisions. Looks like we sorted out. I think Hoshiko hasn't flipped out for a couple turns, but it's not like those triggers have been firing, so it's okay.
Right.
Very important to keep in mind. Built the Last says you can only advance a card. Well, that can be advanced inherently. So all this ice, you know what it is. That's a tree line. Yeah. So you know where the border controls aren't usually, where there's a Winchester maybe. You can get a bit of a lay of the land, but the advanceable ice is a subsection here. This is a 5-strength tree line. This can be advanced technically out of the range eventually of crew charm. Now it looks like that subroutine is just going to fire return a credit and end the run 1 subroutine. I'm not sure if this list is on Botulos. There is a big chance it's on Boomerang. And just
Boomerang,
as you say,
there we go.
Boomerang comes down. So we'll see if we can crack and get into a central server.
Another way to kind of get through ice without actually having to pay to install and use your breakers.
Yeah, because the only breaker in this deck should be Amaku, if I'm not mistaken. I've basically played this exact deck yesterday at COS and had a very great time.
Here
off
is
the top,
a wall-to-wall off the top.
A card for a remote server that doesn't exist yet. You can trash that for 3.
And it is
Hoshiko
gone.
will flip back, but Boomerang can't shuffle back, so you want to get that run. That innermost ice was not rezzed. We're pretty sure at this point it is the Colossus.
It makes the most sense for it to be the Colossus, I agree.
And speaking of program destruction, I'm imagining half the agendas in this deck are SDS drone deployment.
Yeah.
So Sokka understands that 9 of potentially the 18 or the 20 points in this deck are entirely safe on RD on the single axis. Maybe not entirely sweating it. It's going to be a couple turns. Got to build a remote server. See how the charm crews go. Whether the King's going to use them to just open up a central server, whether he's going to use them to say there's no scoring remote server. At some point you will flood up. It'll be a problem.
Yeah, I wonder, so losing the Copulation, how does that change that math? Because Copulation is one of the powerful multi-axis effects you have in this deck.
Some of these lists are in 2. I think there's a chance with Alarm Clock you don't have the influence for 2. A lot of these decks will have this like blue splash. I think yesterday playing Diversion of Funds is a thing. Sometimes you see Bravado, but Boomerang, Copulation, Alarm Clock's really cool too. It can hurt. It's like the only multi-axis in this deck is usually Copulation and then Stargate.
Yeah.
And Stargate's some good pressure if you can trash the ice. Obviously the ice can't be destroyed. If it can't hit the table, it's already destroyed.
Is this another price that we're seeing?
I'm not sure. I think this might just be an install off of the patchwork.
Okay. Notably, we do have a storing remote with an advancement on it here. Nothing in the scoring remote yet, but definitely not willing to back down from this Devil Charm plus crew combination.
We're not expecting that many assets in the deck, like Spin Doctors, Wall-to-Walls. Notably, this is one of the few decks in the modern standard meta that's not playing Rashida.
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to draw 3 cards. Like, you want to
Rashida's
control
too
the
fast.
speed.
Yeah.
You want to control the speed of the game. This is what's happening. Like, these turns aren't very long, but there's going to be a bunch of them of Sokka just methodically building board state and Brandon trying to figure out the exact point in the game where the agendas are in HQ and just going for that one important run. Compilation would be really nice if we can line that up. But I think at this point, Sokka might consider maybe a 3rd ice, maybe a Biovault. I'm not even sure if he needs to score out just yet.
Yeah. Rashida, obviously, at its best, where you kind of want to click the install card button as many times as you can, as quickly as possible. But
3 on the table.
Here, you need to click multiple buttons. You probably want to install. You probably want to advance. You probably will want to do something else. So you don't want to spam out 3 cards on the same turn most of the time in this deck.
This is the wild thing. If you look at the King's credit pool, that's like 20 credits.
It still doesn't feel like, okay, there we go.
Understanding it's a Colossus, we're not going to res. We're going R&D here using the Crew Charm off the top of the deck. It looks like that's a Logjam.
That's a Logjam. Yeah.
And that card, you have to check how many cards are in archives to see what the strength is. But that is an infinite scaling card that does not get broken by Boomerang, which can be kind of important in this matchup, as long as the game goes late enough to have enough of those face-up cards in archives for that to have value. I think we got another Crew down, understanding it's definitely Colossus, but the Logjam, pretty sure Sokka's just going to put that on top of R&D and just hold down here. I think the King has gotten maybe 3 accesses so far this game, and it's a dozen turns maybe.
And had to work really hard for him, too. So an install advance in the remote. Do you think this is another NGO? Do you think this is pushing the first score, daring it?
I don't think Sokka ever install advances the NGO, especially understanding there's another ice that you can put onto R&D. I think this might be a Biovault. At this point, if it's an SDS, you don't really want to score it out. You want to wait for that Amakua to show up or a Stargate. Even a Leech can be very important in this matchup. Maybe there's a chance of the Basalt Spire. Scoring that early gives you some access to like whatever's in your archives. I don't think there's anything that's super important besides just getting ice back at this point. You have to trash the top card of your deck. That is a real cost in these sort of decks. But I actually imagine it's a Biovault. Install, again, the second advance on the NGO front is like, not that great. It's a click for 2 credits. A click for, 2 credits. It's okay. The first one matters, especially with BTL. So we'll see. We just send it in. That hammer, you can't advance off the top. That's a government subsidy. Click for 5 credit button on a healthy, I think we're at 14.
Yeah, easily enough to play for the subsidy after another advance next turn.
This is really interesting because Sokka can advance the Colossus up to strength to get out of the Devil Charm, which just came down. But if you do overextend and spend your whole turn advancing that, and it just gets immediately deleted, that's not great for you. I do think this might be a Biovault.
Going for the subsidy instead.
Yeah, subsidy.
Yeah, the Biovault would make a lot of sense. I think extremely relevant text on the Biovault is that it can hit any run.
Yeah.
Not just a run on that server. So it also protects you in Centrals. It protects you against maybe a Stargate hit.
Yep.
Protects you against potentially a Compilation hit. So
it's a really cool thing against Boomerang as well.
Yeah.
Sokka has a lot of strong opinions. If there's a Boomerang on the table, your main goal is to make sure it doesn't come back.
Strand that Boomerang.
Yeah, stranding Boomerang is important. I think there's a chance if you Boomerang an unres dice, which I think Brandon's going to try and avoid to do. Look at that as a price, right? We hit a strike fund there.
Yeah.
That's a Boomerang in the bin. Those don't come back until later with labor rates.
Admittedly, once they come back with labor rights, very, very strong because they just kind of keep looping.
Yeah, we do know there's a border control, and we're assuming it's on HQ, right? That's the one ice that wasn't advanced. Sokka has played border controls classically only a 1-up in the deck from that one Worlds last year. Just on archives, it's a nice way to say, I'm going to stop pinholes.
Yeah.
But we know that's an advanced ice, so the options are a bit smaller. Again, this game, it's two great players.
If you're playing very, very methodically like this, I imagine that just being able to say no to any HQ run you want is very, very powerful.
Yeah, it's going to come down to counting how many cards Sokka has drawn. At this point, Sokka understands, is HQ in the 1 and 5?
Oh, another on archives.
And this is important. If you trash the ice on archives somehow, that is an Amakua. That's a way to get also your leech counters, and that's exactly what you need here. Sokka can take a turn to purge.
So that was install credit rather than install advance.
Yeah.
So probably also a non-advanceable ice on archives there.
Yeah. Sadaka does show up in some of these lists.
Yeah.
Sadaka's really interesting
because we saw Sadaka earlier, didn't we?
I think we did.
AIs are kind of out of the meta right now. People are counting on their kits. Some people have Ngolo, but people are just not really set up to break trap ice currently.
Yeah, there's not great options. Boomerang's a bit tricky. Amakua is probably the most common thing you see in the meta. But Sokka classically exists in this meta to trash things like Turning Wheel.
Yeah.
And while there's still obviously good resources, look at that Cruise over there. DJ Fenders can be pretty important.
Yeah.
It's
Even the Ice Carver, a pretty good hit here.
Ice Carver can be okay. Now that's a labor rates. I think we trashed 3 cards at the top. One of them was a Boomerang, so I think 2 are now in the bin.
2 in the bin, you're right.
I'm going to shuffle 3 cards back here. And doing that preemptive labor rate, sometimes you wait for the end of the deck. I don't think I saw the cards that shuffled back in. That's going to be really important in this matchup. Apologies. Bunch of cards drawn. Hoshiko has had a blank text box now for the last dozen, maybe turns. Getting the accesses here. It's all going to be about lining up one good run on the central server. And with a bio vault, it has to be largely 2 good runs if Sokka thinks that it's too sweet to not let that thing get trashed.
It's a good reminder that money is not everything in Netrunner, because we're here sitting, 20 credits versus almost 30 credits, and it really feels that Sokka's in a good position because the money doesn't actually get the king in currently. That is a Stargate that's hitting the bin to install that alarm clock.
Yeah, alarm clock, new card.
Must have been shuffled back, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably got shuffled back. I don't think you have the influence for 2. And this says at the beginning of your turn, you can spend this like free click to run HQ. And the first ice you encounter, you can double click through it. Now, first ice, again, that's the first ice you encounter, so it has to be rezzed. And we're assuming it's border control to Mesta chest, so now there's some pressure on Sokka that understanding that you get through with an Amakua through the border control always for, well, not for free, but without virus counters because of the Ice Carver. And so if we destroy the Mesta chest, well, HQ's open. And right now, HQ and R&D are the servers. Sokka has an agenda, and could just push it in.
Alarm clock and Mesta chest vote. The alarm clock is on encounter as well, correct? So it does actually skip the credit loss.
Yeah, if Sokka doesn't res the outermost, I believe that should work.
But we haven't installed Vince Vits. Is this another border, or is this another bio vault, do you think? Or is this actually the agenda?
I think there's a chance with the alarm clock pressure, Sokka might think, I should push in the remote server. It could be safer there.
Right. Just get it out of HQ, pretty much, as the line.
Now, bio vault is another card you do want to get on the table. If this is the Basalt Spire, pretty good. If this is the SDS, again, taking down the Leech is actually pretty relevant in this matchup as long as the King can find one server to break into.
Yeah, and I imagine against this deck, like, the Leech is pretty good. It's also just good to get any value off of that trash.
Not the board control, it's a Winchester.
Okay, Winchester.
One of these HQ-specific
Another non-advanced ice.
4 strength with 3 subroutines on HQ here. So you can spend half your turn clicking through this. Again, you didn't spend a click for the run, so it's an easier pill to swallow for sure. There also you can trace through this. And while every single subroutine on this is relevant, you don't have a link on this side of Hoshiko because you are not flipped to the digital side where the link does come in. You can brute force here for credits, but I'm imagining you're spending way more credits than you can make in 2 clicks. So 2 clicks seems okay. Oh, and we're just...
Another Winchester on Archives.
Do we just double click through that and walk away? I think we might have.
Yeah.
Now, the second Winchester doesn't end the run, but those are 2 big traces. I think it's 4 into 3 for hardware and program.
Yeah, and hardware you certainly don't want to fire right now. That Devil Charm and that Patchwork are both so important to your plan.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose the Leech either. So.
No, Leech is good.
This is one of those classic, I just need an easy access. Well, not going to make any easy access for you.
Now, on the turn that you think there might be an agenda remote server, a big thing that the King might be doing here is also just running all the central servers, forcing some ice reses, and then hoping that at that point, Sokka might not be able to sufficiently res the ice on the remote server. And that's when you can maybe force through the Devil Charm crew combo. We still are expecting to be on 1 Bio Vault. This is very important to say. Bio Vault is an upgrade, and it's one of the few advanceable upgrades in the entire standard card pool. So you actually can have multiple cards in a server that are advanced. It looks pretty strange for most.
And we are tracing through, and here comes a tree line.
5 strength. If you want a crew charm it, it's still going to be behind that scorpion type thing. This means you can get through this.
You can, yeah.
It's going to cost you your 2nd Devil Charm removed from game and the crew, and at this point, the main central servers, it looks like that's just going to fire.
Doesn't seem work that it just bounces and gains a credit. Now, 9 credits to res the remote.
Yes. And the ice we're expecting here, we've seen Logjam. We're assuming at this point we haven't yet seen the 7 cost Pharaohs, which will be most of the credits here. We'll see if the King is going to run R&D and then maybe run the remote server, see how the credits get spent. We are pretty sure the innermost ice is a 6 cost. Just give a tag and trash a Leech. You can destroy this. Both players thinking here.
Now, this would be last click because the alarm clock does take 2 clicks, correct?
Oh, yeah, we double click through it. Yeah, you're totally right.
Seems like running the remote could be worth it, though. I mean, at the very least, it seems like you can probably get one of these ice down and get the Bio Vault popped. It really depends what's on the remote, though.
Yeah. It's hard for me to tell where the king wants to use the ice destruction. For some decks, you put on centrals, especially if you are.
So this is an R&D run, and we do see the logjam res. So counting up the card types in archives that are face up.
Just acid ice operation, I think.
Acid
Seems
ice
pretty
operation.
good. I think it gets 1 no matter what,
It
and it
does.
already started with 1. So that orange counter, I believe, might be a 5. This is a 5 strength logjam. If that fires, that gives Sokka 2 credits. That actually is pretty important.
It is.
On 3, Sokka can still throw into score out, going down to 0. Now, going down to 0 can be rough, because that means if the king can put down an Amakua, it has the turn actually to farm the remote server and hit that breach step, trash a buy vault. I'm pretty sure Sokka might just want to recover financially, hope that it's an NGO front, maybe the remote server. But this subroutine is really important. I do think that's 5 strength, 3 subroutines. We know the next one after this.
Oh,
it looks
so
like it's
it
firing.
did fire, so that's gain 2. And we have the mandatory jar for the turn. Are we about to see? Looks like reaching towards the credit pool, pulling back.
Sokka has financial problem here. King forcing a lot of rezzed ice on the table. I think we rezzed like nearly 20 credits of ice in a single turn.
Yeah, Sokka's credit pool was very much larger before that turn started. The King's was as well, but not by as much. King still has 22 credits.
Hoshiko's still not flipping, not getting that 2 credit plus -1 plus
all
card.
those runs, all those rests, still no Hosh flip. You're right.
The Hosh flip is some good value there. I don't think we're going to see a buy vault to stop a Hosh flip, but you do want to keep the runner working for that digital reward.
Sokka in the tank here. I understand. This seems like a really pivotal turn to get right.
Yeah, he's thinking. Now, a really interesting thing about watching Sokka is very aware of the body
gonna
language.
Take 3.
Yeah.
Gonna take 3.
Just recovering gear 3. We're on 8 credits. That should res any ice in the deck. The most expensive we're expecting is a Pharaohs on 7, but a single Pharaohs actually can be destroyed here by just Crew Charm. It will only be 5 strength. It doesn't scale linearly. It scales from 5 to 10 immediately once you hit 3 advancements. So we'll see if King here wants to run the remote server. He knows that there's a bio vault for sure. Also knows there's no border control on the remote server. That's not the most frightening ice, but specifically, just make 1 run.
Yeah.
We haven't seen Amakua yet. I don't know if the King is just holding 1 in hand. Understanding the sooner you play the Amakua, the more scared you are of the Surveyor, which we are pretty sure is the ice there.
Okay, so this is an alarm clock run. Spending the 2 credits to get through Winchester.
We're cracking HQ, double clicking. Going to lose 3 here. The only thing that this makes sense is if we're going to Devil Charm it.
Gonna Devil Charm, it looks like. Probably.
Yeah.
Yep,
for
there's the
pay
crew,
2.
there is the Devil Charm.
And so now there is 1 open server here. Leech will get a counter, get 1 good random access. That's a clearinghouse.
Clearinghouse, that's a really good one to hit early.
Yeah.
You don't want to get Worlds Finals 2023 with it.
Nobody guessed on their how's World's going to end final. It was a meat damage flatline, but that means in the remote server, right? Is it another clearinghouse? I think at this point,
Clearinghouse is 0 to res.
it is cheap. But Brandon has to keep.
Obviously, we don't have
up.
the mics quite high enough on the table to figure out if Sokka's asking how many cards in hand at the end of turn.
You always want to ask, DJ Fenris is coming down there. We can pick a
Oh,
G-mod
that's
from
good.
out of faction. All the options right now in the standard card pool, if you're playing Anarch, are criminal. So we're assuming here it's a Steve Cambridge. The other options are Los, if I'm not mistaken, and
Sable.
Probably Sable,
Sable,
yeah.
yeah.
Those don't seem as great as running HQ and getting some value, but Sokka being able to repair.
Sable, you're already having trouble making runs, so getting extra, like the benefit of a click is probably not as strong as the benefit of going onto your alarm clock server and getting a card back that's going to help you, like another crew or a dirty
another
laundry
crew?
or something. Yeah, another crew does come down, and dirty laundry is being played. It looks like no,
discarded.
trashed for the patchwork.
So that's a free crew here. Getting pressure to Basalt
Oh,
Spire.
it is a Basalt Spire.
Scoring out,
So
this
it is
is
the 5/3.
A new agenda gets 2 agenda counters, and you can use those at a paid ability window, I believe only once per turn, to grab a card from archives from HQ after you trash the top card of R&D. So you can always just like save the card that you trashed. Technically, it's a card draw, but you can use it just to bring back money, bring back buy vaults, and really put the runner in a rough spot. Looks like we're going to start here with a double click to get through HQ. If you want to get through that Winchester,
Obviously, we're not at the point where I'm worried about time yet, but it is notable that Sokka does have points.
Yes.
And the King doesn't. If things stay the same the rest of the game, this is Sokka's win.
Yep. When time is called, it looks like it's just buy vault run on HQ.
Buy vault.
Also, double click. That was a run on alarm clock. Double click into a hand. The hand has, I think, 5 cards in there, but it looks like they're almost definitely an agenda.
Yeah, how
that is very
stacked is
expensive.
HQ if that's a Biovol pop?
Assuming maybe 2 agendas in hand
Yeah.
here. It also stops the Steve trigger and the Hoshiko, so there's a lot of incidental value
Yeah.
and the leech on top of that. Now, if you want to go back here, with only 6 credits, you can actually res the Pharaoh, so you can just trace your way through the Winchester and pay through the credit pool and probably get a very good access here. Now, Steve can bring back Aquaceres Cruise, can bring back Economy.
Oh, it's a logjam though.
That's cool.
That is resable.
So this is resable just to bait the double click through the Winchester, just to end the run. And if you're coming back, I'm resing this, and this will guaranteed fire. This is only 4 strength.
Sorry, I think it's a logjam. It's a tree line.
Oh, excuse me, yeah, tree line.
Line.
So this is only 4 strength with the Ice Carver. The lowest we can get down to is actually 1 strength.
Oh, we see a Dirty Laundry come out, though.
On the remote
On the
server?
remote.
On 3 credits saying, I don't think you're playing Ice Wall. I can just
Yeah.
make this run and gain 3. Hoshiko does actually need to touch cards as much as Amakua would enjoy that empty iced server.
Yeah, Amakua just cares about the breach. Hoshiko does have to access at least 1 card.
Basalt Spire for
Basalt
NGO
Spire
front.
for NGO front. Just needs to build back the credits, I understand it.
Yeah, double advance,
And
getting
it
the
is the
money.
double advance.
Now, this could be an agenda. I'm not saying it is, but when they think you know it,
It could be.
Yes.
It could be.
No, the king
It
can
would be.
just
It would
check
be a pretty gutsy agenda
It'd
push
be
here.
cool.
Yeah.
But probably not. Probably just a crack for 8 credits NGO front. One of those staples that you can put into any deck costing no influence. That gives you a bit of a bluff, a bit of economy play, and a really nice way to get back into the game here with the built to last ability.
If this were an agenda, I think that would just be like truly the world champ difference.
Running HQ.
Okay, that is a leech, so we're starting to finally see leech counters.
We've crewed our way through the Winchester. We're going to get an access here. We think their agenda's in hand. That's just a wall-to-wall.
Wall-to-wall.
3 to trash is a fair bit. I think we missed the Steve trigger.
I think we did.
I'm not sure we got the Steve trigger. It looks like it's just strike fun. Okay, so just Oracle there was sorting it out. So that is a card that is play for 3 or clicklessly play for 2 while you're getting something installed or played with the patchwork. That is a fantastic synergy. Amakua is coming down.
Amakua finally comes down. That is huge with the alarm clock and only 1 ice on HQ. Now, obviously, with the NGO, what we assume is the NGO, ready to be popped, probably another ice about to go down on HQ, I would guess.
There's the NGO crack for 8 credits, and we know that the Biovault on HQ was fired. There's still a lot of value in that run.
Yep, another ace on HQ.
There's just more ice in this deck always.
There's always more ice. It's just like Ag Infusion. There's always more ice.
Install on the remote server. Our guess is it's the wall-to-wall.
Yeah.
That card's really interesting because it does actually not entirely force, but the corporation can draw cards from it, which does just speed up the game.
Though, I've been talking to some players this weekend who've been on BTL for KOS or for the main event, and they've said, oftentimes, I just don't take the draw.
Yeah, you don't have to. I think it says up to 3. It's a modal card, depending on whether you have other rezzed assets. But that gives them... Actually, Sokka looking in the bin there. That's sometimes a tell. Oh, we're running HQ.
Another Winchester. That is
Winchester.
third Winchester.
Now, this deck, there's big parts of it.
I see a little incredulity on the king's face there. Yeah. Really? The third one?
It's like one of the most common breaker suites you see in this meta. Oh, running the remote server.
Another
just getting rezzed. Just pivoting off of that. Just protecting what's in the remote server again, whether it's a wall-to-wall or whether it's a Spin Doctor Rashida. But I don't think it's Rashida's. I think that must be the wall-to-wall here.
Yeah.
Just going to advance up
Makes
again.
the most sense.
Make that logjam safe. Get those, even getting like a really big tree line is just good enough.
Yeah, Message Justivo, pretty punishing.
It's very good.
Like, the king was on 30 credits not that long ago, now only on 9.
Yeah, some of those I think were like really forced traces on the Winchester, which those are big numbers, and there's a couple of them. So we'll see here with the Amakua. You need to be careful. You don't want to get some program destruction. You want to be able to get that breach step and just farm the remote server, farm archives, whatever you can. We haven't seen him a virus yet, as much as there are some face downs here.
I have to say, it does make a lot of sense that this is probably one of the most difficult decks to farm turtle counters against, because
it's rough.
Famously, turtles cannot live on the moon.
So, like, looking at that composition of this deck, right? Like, so much of the choice of Sokka's deck is how does it interact with some of the common runner decks you see in the standard format? 3 Winchesters, and we've also seen, I believe we're assuming that it's a Colossus. If you're breaking that with the Revolver Suite, that
and
Sokka
look at that.
brought,
The counter goes on likely the Colossus.
It's just going to get big. Currently, it should be 6 strength. We're going to advance the message chest, so it's better than clicking for a credit. We're just going to get a credit pool up and say, hey, this wall-to-wall is going to bring us back to liquidity.
It would be a very, very good trash, but obviously the problem with Amakua I mean, Amaku is a great card, but if you want to trash something like this wall-to-wall, you don't get a counter if you do that. And you spent all of that effort getting in. We do have the third Devil Charm. That is the last Devil Charm in the game come down. There is a second Leech. If any of these centrals open up, suddenly you could start stacking up those counters very quickly. So I'd imagine we might see the King pivot to trying to open up a central here.
Yeah, what's going to matter a lot is getting the labor rights. A lot of times these crew host decks, I don't expect to see something like an Ashen Epilogue. Definitely a second labor rights, maybe even 3. But at that point, you just bring back all the crews and say, like, I have 3 crews. I can technically brute force through 6 strength ice by just taking a bunch of tags. You don't expect tag punishment to be in this deck, but you can just like force your way in, break open HQ, get that alarm clock, and get some pretty good central pressure. And then, as you said, snowball forward.
The tag punishment is you get your Steve trashed, you get your other crews trashed, I guess.
Yeah, losing your crews is not great. You don't have Seb's text to protect it, in quotes. But just getting some credits. Again, wall-to-wall firing, advancing. We believe that should be, at this point, a 7-strength Colossus. And at that point, once it's hit the 3, I think the subroutines get a lot worse.
They do, yeah. So you now take extra tags, which doesn't matter as much. The real big thing is now, if Colossus fires, you lose a resource. And as we just talked about, resource is very important to this host deck.
Looks like labor rights. We're trashing 3. One of them might have been a strike fund, so we'll see what's going to be shuffled back. Just happening a bit, again, off camera. This is the Oracle doing all that hard work to get things back into the deck. A lot of options there.
Not many cards in the stack right now, are there?
Not too many, no. Often you'll wait till the end of the deck. I think we've emptied out. So whatever the labor rates brings back, that's going to be entirety of your deck. So what Peter here is going through is deciding like exactly what he wants this to be. If there's a third labor rates, that almost always goes back in. Otherwise, we may just see crew. Boomerang is a really good call, especially because there's no, on the table, there aren't any Biovaults right now, so you know it's going to come back. You can pre-install the Boomerang on the tree line, and then next turn try and get in with Alarm Clock. But it gives Sokka a whole turn just to like trash and over-install the tree line and just say,
just strand that Boomerang, So do you almost have to shuffle back 2 Boomerangs then? But Sokka can just do it again.
I don't know.
That's the problem.
We see 1 crew there on top of the discard pile, if I'm not mistaken. So it doesn't look like the full set went back. So unfortunately, off camera, what's coming back in? Labor Rights does draw a card there. This is not on a buffer drive version 2. It doesn't look like. I think the influence is going to more blue cards. That, at this point in the game, is a bit tricky to use.
Not happy with what that Labor Rights draw was drawing for a second.
Trying to get the pressure on that wall-to-wall. We have about 10 minutes left in the round here, and Sokka just up on 3 points is enough.
Okay, another crew.
So at least 1 went back. This is also the point in the game where like you run out of cards, so you run out of patchwork triggers. That is the idea of buffer drive, that you can just like play the same, and by play I mean patchwork the same steel skins.
Yeah, so normally, obviously, against the normal deck where you actually are able to ever run HQ successfully, you're getting back a lot of these, a lot of cards, so you have a lot more patchwork triggers because of Steve. But against Built to Last, you were just slowly getting choked out.
Advancing the ice outermost. So we're assuming that's an infinite scaling. We haven't seen a Pharaohs yet, so Logjam's still pretty good.
Logjam still makes sense.
Tree line's great, and that third ice.
Oh, a third ice on HQ.
That's understanding where the pressure's coming in. I don't know. Do we see the border control? I feel like we did see the border control, but maybe we're mistaken. Maybe it was a tree line. Yeah, because we would have seen it by now. Not great into, mind you, Ice Carver Amakua, but very important on a run.
That might be why we haven't seen it. Maybe just waiting for a run where you really need the trash ability.
Here's a Boomerang. It's going on what
Boomerang
we
is
believe
going on probably the
Colossus. Now 5 strength there. We can get through that with either the Devil Charm if you want to trash it. Seems like a good time to do that. And might get R&D access. There still should be a fair few agendas left in R&D. Looks like we're going to destroy that. Remove from game the last Devil Charm. Pay 2 credits to trash the ice. 5 goes straight to -1.
We have officially paid the devil his due.
And we're going to res this Colossus. So it looks like this Boomerang is going back. Going to get 2 Leech counters. Maybe an Amakua, but stealing 2 if it's an SDS. That's a Biovault.
That is a Biovault. That's a good trash out of R&D. You don't want to have to see that later.
Not great in their most ever. Trash for 2 is the choice here. Now, denies you an Amakua counter, but an Ice Carver
the counter is such a huge thing.
Yeah, it's tricky.
And also only being on 9 credits, like it is a really good trash, but it is also a really good no trash because of the Amakua.
Brandon is considering it. Understanding how many buy vaults in the list, maybe 3, I think 2 might make sense. Also,
we do see the trash, so Turtle will not get a counter this run.
I think I saw Trojan Horse in Sokka's hand.
What?
That was a one-of in the list last year. And if that comes across,
no.
even to trash a Leech, if you have credit advantage, has a huge swing on the game, because those are some of the most important cards alongside Amakua. Now the credit differentials, plus Hosh
we
Flip
will
and
see
Tag.
Hosh Flip.
Yeah. Gain
Amazing.
2. Gets some Link as well, but
And there is a card left to draw, so just in time for Hosh.
perfect value. Sokka thinking this through. 7 minutes left on the round. Wall to Wall has a really cool text line that you can return it to hand. Now, very importantly, you have to do the start a turn trigger before you mandatory draw. So if you've drawn an agenda or draw something you think is better suited to the remote server, you have to make the decision kind of guessing what's happening.
Yeah.
Looks like just click 3, discard.
Okay.
Is that what that is? Card hit the bin.
Yeah, I think so.
No, Sokka didn't take money, though. Maybe he did. Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah.
Boomerangs.
Boomerang comes down. Where's Boomerang going?
Always come back. It's going to go on R&D. 2
R&D.
subroutines. Getting through the Colossus. Seeing a piece of ice there. Message chest
chest foe, yeah.
That's the 3rd we've seen so far. That should be 6 influence well spent on Built to Last. You're allowed to shuffle a card back into a deck of no cards?
Yeah.
Okay. Shuffle.
Shuffle it well.
Shuffle
Yeah.
it. So that's...
Make sure you randomize the order.
Yeah. Sufficiently randomized. Now, this gets an Amaku counter. This gets a Leech counters as well. I think that term was a purge, excuse me. That was just a
Oh, it
straight
was a
purge.
purge.
That's why
Okay.
Sokka didn't get
That's
credits.
why.
So it was just purge and discard. And with the wall-to-wall ticking along, you can feel that's a much easier thing to do because your
Yeah.
board state is getting better. You're pushing the runner back, and Sokka here needs to just wait to top deck an ice. That ice is going to go in front of R&D. We know it's a
There we
Mestachesso.
go.
And now,
And here's the advance.
yes. Now it comes down to the
So we
cards.
have a couple minutes left in round, about 6 here.
Yes.
Sokka turtling up, despite not being the person with Amakua.
It is worth noting that. So it's worth noting that I believe, yeah, Brandon here, because of the oracling process, often gets about a 5-minute extension is
Yes.
allowed because it is inherently not as efficient as not having an oracle, I suppose. But Sokka looking through the bin there to see the options. Again, the remove from game pile. Steve Cambridge hasn't fired for a bit, but it's just counting where the crews are.
Mm-hmm.
Mestachesso?
Yeah, it is funny that Steve has only accounted for about half of that remove from game pile. Half of it is Devil Charms.
Yeah, labor rights leaving on their own too.
And labor rights, right?
So you can run R&D here if I'm not mistaken.
You can,
Amakua
yeah.
plus Leech plus Archcarver does get you once through a 4-cost ice. You're still going to have to boomerang the Colossus and go for a single. One of the
Now,
things you
those
can
leech
do
counters
here...
do come back from that run, so it is actually pretty
it's
good.
somewhat sustainable.
Yeah.
Now, if you do find a 3-pointer...
Oh,
looks
but
like
this
we're
is
going
an
to
HQ run, and that is a logjam. This should be at least a 6 strength, I think, since the one was... Okay, it's a 7
plateaus.
strength?
Because I had 2 already, right?
7, oh god.
Because you generally get the +3 because there's
Yeah.
usually not agendas. Like, it does have a limit, but 7 strength is going to be frustrating for sure.
Yeah, no Devil Charms to solve that problem for you, so this is most likely just going to stick unless a lot of leech counters happen.
But Sokka's down to 1 credit. Depends if the subroutine fires. It looks like it's going to, but that could bring Sokka up to 3 credits. On 3 credits, Sokka can't res the Mestachesso, which means this Boomerang is going to come back. Now, these axes are so important because the leech counters off the top. That is a Whoredom. That's
And that
original
is-
printing.
That is another Amakua counter.
2 more leeches
2
as
leech
well.
counters.
So this might just be another purge for Sokka. But if you purge, actually, the Boomerang still gets back in. It only
does.
gets 3 counters on viruses. Brandon needs to steal 1 3-pointer.
1 3-pointer.
Because with 4 minutes left in the round, it might be hard for Sokka to score 1 more agenda. We don't think this deck is on a hostile takeover. It's probably only on 3-pointers, maybe 1 above the law.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, both of these players might just get to a tie.
And that was a purge.
It was a purge, yeah. Now, a tie in single-sided Swiss is only worth 1 point. A win is worth 3. A loss is unfortunately worth no points. But getting 1 point each for both of these players that maybe at some point in some tournaments would intentionally draw if they could early rounds. We've seen that before between teammates.
Yeah, it forces them to win an extra late game,
Yeah.
but often would be in a position where they're looking to take a draw late anyway.
Looks like we still get some cards out of hand. That is
Another
going
Boomerang
to be
coming back.
a sure gamble into the Boomerang. Understanding the Admirals, we need an agenda here. We haven't seen anything off the top of the NGO
it's
front.
an NGO.
Now, this gives Sokka credits, but if you trash this, Amaku doesn't get the counter. You get 2 leeches, but those counters are so important. Because if you get the Amaku counter, you can actually break Mestachesso next turn because you can get the 4 strength with the Ice Carver.
This is such a tough
But
decision.
Sokka needs the money to stabilize to threaten to score the next point.
It's such a tough decision. 3 minutes left in the round. I think you need the counter.
Trashing it. Amaku is not
It's
going
such
to counter.
a tough decision.
So we're currently at 3 strength maximum between the Ice Carvers and the Double Leech. Sokka, I think, saying, I wanted that?
I
Is that what
wanted
it came
that.
through?
Yep, that's. I'm sure you did, Sokka.
Boomerang coming back, but this also means Sokka is drawing an unknown card. And all these turns, you can break lock with the wall-to-wall, but Brandon's seen a lot of cards, and none of them have points on them.
Yeah.
Upgrade.
Upgrade.
What the heck is an upgrade in this deck? Isaac? Liberdade? I don't know what sees play here.
Chrysium?
Chrysium makes a lot of sense. Now that stops the Yamakuwa counter, sorry, the Leech counters.
Leech counters,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that could be quite
that's actually
powerful.
really good. And Chrysium would be a 3 res if it is the Chrysium.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this stops runs from being considered successful. That is just silly sounding text, but almost all the cards in this game say if successful, do something. It doesn't stop you from accessing,
Yeah.
but can be very important. Again, trick shot, deep dive, shaper cards.
It is also
Criminal
so
cards.
funny to see. We have DJ Steve in the game, and we don't have the Chrysium on HQ.
Yeah,
How often do you see that?
Buttoned up pretty tightly there. Thinking if we can make it through on 5 credits, Sokka can res this. Mess Nachesvo. That will bottom out Sokka's credits. It will have an impact. King is going to lose 3, going from 7 to 4, so both players kind of in the muck. Trying to get that 1-axis Boomerang, costs 2 to install. But you can force the Mess Nachesvo here. It comes back to labor rights. I don't know if we have another crew. Brendan still has a couple options. I think 4 cards he's deciding between. Amakuwa, going to install here, play something. It is the
crew.
Final
it is
crew.
The crew. So we haven't seen the take attack ability on crew.
Oh, third labor rights.
There is the labor
huge.
rights.
The game continues. I think he didn't mean to play that. I think he meant to play the Boomerang here.
Okay.
So now you can take a tag to destroy the Mess Nachesvo. So Sokka has to decide, do I want the Messni for 5 or do I want the Chrysium for 3? It looks like we're going to have the Messni for 5.
Okay.
The on-counter tech should fire here. And
It
that
should.
continues to leave at least 2 credits, exactly 2 credits for the Aquaceres crew, but you have to take a tag.
Yes.
If you take a tag, the Ice Carver can be trashed. It actually can be important, but obviously Sokka has a liquidity problem. Now you have to get the Boomerang through. I don't know if Sokka's going to overinstall that Colossus, but if that Boomerang is lost, the King doesn't have that many great ways to deal with the table anymore.
Yeah, also 30 seconds left, we believe, until the time extension. So
King
the
needs
King
to get an
really,
access
really
here.
needs to hit an agenda.
Taking
Really?
the tag
Okay,
here.
so here
This
it
is
is.
huge. If the King hits an agenda here, it looks like both players are going to draw. 22 seconds left of the round. Sokka can't score points from nothing on 0
So
credits.
there is going to be no rest.
Single
We do see the
access.
counters.
The room is very quiet.
Let's see it. Let's see it.
Oh, it's a
It's a
virus.
virus. Okay.
1 influence makes sense. Getting the purge. Government subsidy,
Not
nothing.
an agenda.
The King has touched so many cards. None of them worth points. Time has been called. This might just be a handshake. 3 points, 40 minutes just to get 3 points. That's a bad
is
points
so
per minute
tough.
ratio. But for Sokka, that is just going to close the game out.
That's how you draw it up, though. If you're built to last, you choke the runner out. It's
built too
yeah.
fast.
Built to last is just you break them upon the rocks of your
Do you
ice.
see his hand? It's SDSs for days. It's just SDS. 9 points in hand from a deck that could be only playing 18, potentially.
And just was able to get those Devil Charms out early and deny the leech counter. So just that logjam was never going away, ever on HQ.
Alarm clock going
And
for
that
the
is a handshake.
That's it.
Congratulations to
Between these
Sokka.
2 players, the teammates showing the hand. There is 12 points in hand, not finding them off R&D, just seeing those.
Wow.
Money in cards, money in eyes.
So
Sokka.
Sokka moves to 5-0. That's a very, very good start from
Great.
the 2-time world champ. The King will move to 4-1. Still
great.
plenty of chance to make day 2.
Still
You
doing-
only need 7 wins to make it to day 2. So
Yes, and this is just the end of round 5. There's 6 more rounds
There
today.
are.
It is wild. This is the longest day, I think, of Netrunner play I've ever participated in. We're going to have a lunch break coming up in a minute, but we might actually have a cool thing coming up.
Let's I think we're going to go to a quick break, but probably we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Yeah, production is nodding, by the way. Huge shout out to production.
Okay.
They've been killing it. But
They have been absolutely fantastic job.
we have something really cool that's going to be happening kind of exclusively here on the stream in just a couple minutes. Is that correct? Oh, we're getting a nod. Okay.
All right.
That's the end of round 5, but don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with something quite special for y'all. See you in a bit.
2024 World Championships. I am Neuropantser, he, him, joined by...
I'm Andrej for the Metropolitan Grid, he, him. And
I'm Sokka, he, him.
Just saw Sokka on stream. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Fantastic game. Well
Thank
played.
you.
We are here for a special announcement. So, what are we here to announce?
So I have a couple cards that I've won for designing, and my first design is about to come out in Dawn. And I'm excited to share that with everybody today. There's also a very special Worlds 2024 promo of that card that I have in front of me that we're here to hand out to our participants.
So what you're saying is people are not just here to watch the World Championships, they're also here for scoops.
Yeah. There's a card that I've been giving up to my opponents. Should I read it out?
yeah.
Absolutely. Do we want to throw the image up as well?
Yeah.
There we go.
So this is the card. The World's promo version. It's called Key Performance Indicators. It is a one-cost Wayland operation, and it is a transaction. It's 2 influence, and it says resolve 2 of the following in any order, which was that was a required bit of text because back-to-back world champions need to be consistent. And there are 4 options. Option 1 is draw a card, shuffle 1 card from HQ into R&D. Option 2 is install 1 piece of ice from HQ, ignoring all costs. Option 3 is place 1 advancement counter on an installed card you can advance. And option 4 is gain 2 credits.
Cool. This is okay. So Deuce is Wild, the modal card we've seen
That's
before.
right.
It's a very cool, very commonly splashed card. Now this is Wayland. It costs influence. I'm assuming this is a combo enabler. What were you thinking when you were putting this together?
I wanted to make a utility card.
Yeah.
So I wanted lots of different utility applications, and I wanted it to be unclear whether it's the best of time to play it now or if it's going to be better later. So really, that's really the second option, which is install a piece of ice from HQ, ignoring all costs. Is like that. That's like the part that scales on value. And like, am I going to get more value later? Should I play this now? I like that bit of tension. And there's a couple key things that it just enables that are usually things that you can't do. So for example, let's say that you have a 5/3 in your hand and your runner has just spent a bunch of money and they clearly can't contest anything, but you don't have a remote. So what you can do is you can play this card, which essentially click compresses the advancement counter and also the ice install.
Yeah, super cool.
Awesome.
And then the other thing that this can click compress is you can, if you have, let's say, an Atlas or like some kind of 3/2 on the board, or maybe you have a 5/3 that's double advanced and you were planning to triple advance and score, you can do that with this card if you start the turn on 1 credit.
Whoa, yeah, advance, get the money.
Yeah, so you can
Seems
play
nice.
this card, gain 2, and then place the advancement token, and you can advance, and you can score as well. And then finally, like the 4th option, drawing a card and then shuffle a card from HQ into R&D. Like it's not ideal that all the factions need to kind of play Spin Doctor.
Yeah.
This is kind of like my little shot at like maybe we can help Wayland not have to play Spin Doctor.
Was Wayland a choice?
Yeah, that was my question. Was it always going to be Wayland? Were you thinking of any other factions?
This was always going to be a Wayland card. Yeah, like it does seem like just like installing ice and advancing stuff seems like Wayland's thing, especially advancing stuff. Like having a card that says advance something is kind of like a Wayland thing, especially if we're stacking a lot of ice. And obviously, when I won Worlds last year in 2023, I was playing Built to Last, and this would be an excellent card in Built to Last. And that's also part of the reason why there's a couple attributions that I could have chosen to put on here. 2023 Worlds is not the first one. But I chose to put that one on this card because
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's just on theme with the BTL, and it's coming out in 2024 Worlds, and I'm also playing BTL again.
Hey, would you play that today if you could in the deck?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. The thing is, like, I put a lot of thought into the balance of this card, and it was interesting because I submitted this card with like this text, except for the shuffle a card from HQ into R&D part. And then there was like a couple times where like the testing kind of like shifted the numbers, shifted things, and I was like, I don't know about that. But I was so happy that we ended up here. But I think like as a very baseline bit of value is you spend a click, you pay 1, you gain 2, and then let's say you place an advancement token on an installed card, which is worth 2 clicks.
Yeah.
So you've essentially spent a click to gain 3 clicks worth of value, which is generally below curve, right? Like you easy mark in Beanstalk royalties, essentially, right? So you really want to like get that to scale a little bit more. So like we really made it so that like gaining 2 is probably not the thing you want to do. And you probably want to like get a piece of ice installed, save on the install cost, and like that's the thing
huge.
that scales. And also the shuffle card from HQ into R&D is like that's like a key moment that you can't really just evaluate based off credits and clicks.
The utility of like modal cards like this for things like Atea or Mirrormorph, like it actually opens a lot of stuff. Saraswati works with this, or not Saraswati, excuse me, Iswak. Like there's some weird interactions if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. If I'm not mistaken, you have put together a video?
Yes, there is a video that's live on my YouTube. I just put it up. It went public about 5 minutes ago. So go check it out. It's on my YouTube at Sokka234. There's like a 3-minute video on there. And while you're at it, you'll also find some shorts as well that I've been recording after every round today.
Oh, cool! Just like last year.
Yeah, just like last year.
That's sick. That's really great.
I think we may actually have access to that video. We can probably cut to it after this, but I think before we do that, we should definitely, again, thank you, Sokka, for coming on and
it's a
making
pleasure.
a special announcement and giving us scoops, giving the people scoops exactly what they want.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. And obviously, like the version that we're giving out today is a full art promo. With my digital signature on it, and I'm super stoked that this is a thing.
That's great. This is a card coming out on Dawn, mind you, which should be Q1 of next year, if I'm not mistaken, which is a very exciting release for Null Signal Games. It's going to be a great year next year. But Sokka, thanks so much for joining us. We're just about to hit the lunch break, so we might throw the video up. Excuse me. We'll find out if that's the case. I think we are going to be. So don't go anywhere. We have a video. Otherwise, after that, we'll be back in about an hour for round 6 of the 2024 World Championship. Thanks for watching. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Enjoy, everybody.
The card is called Key Performance Indicators. It is a 1-cost Wayland transaction operation for 2 influence. And it says, resolve 2 of the following in any order. Option 1, draw 1 card. Shuffle 1 card from HQ into R&D. Option 2, install 1 piece of ice from HQ, ignoring all costs. Option 3, place 1 advancement counter on an installed card you can advance. And option 4, gain 2 credits. I'm so happy with how this card turned out. That creates a lot of really interesting decisions for the Corp, because it can do a lot of different things, and you can never be sure when is the best time to play it, because it's useful in so many different situations. Shuffling a card from HQ into R&D, it kind of replaces Spin Doctor, maybe. So maybe we can use this instead of Spin Doctor in our Wayland decks. Being able to advance a card and install an ice means that you can take advantage of quick scoring opportunities. Being able to gain 2 credits and advance a card means that you can triple advance an agenda with a starting credit total of 1. And of course, installing a piece of ice from HQ, ignoring all costs, allows you to stack ice, ignoring the costs, and that value only goes up the longer you hold onto this card. A couple things that I did want to touch on in this video. It does say designed by 2023 World Champion. I do have championship cards from previous events, but we wanted to write 2023 World Champion on here because Dawn is going to be a lasting product, lasting for a while at least, and also because it's kind of a nod to the Built to Last deck that I played at the 2023 World Championships, where this card would have been great in that deck. I do believe that this is not the final version of the card. On the bottom right, it does say 23 on there. I think it's supposed to say 24, so this might not be the final version, but it'll look something pretty similar to this. Of course, you will find a normal format version of this card in your sets in Dawn in the next upcoming Netrunner expansion. And I'm so excited to see what Dawn has to offer. Tomorrow, on Saturday, we will start the Standard World Championship, and be sure to follow along on my YouTube shorts. I do plan on posting YouTube shorts as much as I can. We're playing 14 rounds of single-sided Swiss, So we'll see if I can post a short after every round. I'll do my best. But do follow along on there, and also I'm sure No Signal Games will have a great stream as well. That's all. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're as excited about Dawn as I am.